In a long-shot bid to convince skeptical Republican senators they should impeach the former president. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us and joining us on the AM edition of Newsfeed right here on Newsroom Africa, channel 405. If you've just tuned in, good morning. I'm Mpho Tole. Now, Lungile Nxelelwa will serve 2 life sentences for the rape and murder of his girlfriend, Keneilwe Pule. Pule was brutally murdered in Everton, south of Johannesburg in 2019. The court found that Nxelelwa showed no remorse for murdering the young woman. Joining us now is Themba Masango, Secretary General of the organization Not In My Name. Themba, very good morning to you. Justice being served. What did you make of the outcome of this long and twisted and really tragic matter?
Good morning, Paul. Finally, yes, justice has been served. And as you're saying, that it was a long, protracted case, and we as Not In My Name, we definitely want to welcome this judgment that has come through. In fact, we were hoping that this could have been done a little bit faster, but at least at the end of the day, this perpetrator who showed no remorse and who just did a heinous crime has now been sentenced to 2 life sentences, and we welcome that judgment. And we are hoping that this will deter perpetrators and would-be perpetrators in South Africa, because this scourge of gender-based violence and femicide in our country is really, really getting out of hand. And we need all hands on deck, from the police right up to the courts and our honorable judges, to make sure that perpetrators like these do not ever see the light of day.
And what sort of message do you think a case of this nature sends out, especially at a time where gender-based violence is under the spotlight and in fact declared a second pandemic that we're dealing with by the various politicians and ministers?
Indeed, it is to us and to the rest of South Africa a second pandemic, which has been going unabated. But sentences like these, which are really coming out to be harsher and harder, are really, really helping within the cause. You remember a few months ago we spoke and we were saying that for such perpetrators and for such incidents where people do these kind of heinous crimes, we should also consider perhaps bringing back the death penalty for such, because the way in which he murdered Keneilwe Pule was really very heinous. It showed that this person has got no sense of dignity for life and for anybody else. However, this is the best that we have at the moment in the country, and we want to continue spreading that message to say that South Africa is a country of laws, and should you be found being a perpetrator of these type of crimes, the courts will definitely throw the legal book at you, and you'll get venomous, sentencing. Our only plea is that this should be done faster, because such cases are slam dunk cases. We know who the perpetrator is, and we should actually get into these cases and make sure that they are, dealt with very quickly, so that we don't have secondary victimization for families and so on.
We've heard Police Minister Bheki speaking out very strongly, and various other ministers, about the nature and the speed at which police officers must ensure that they act should a victim of any sort of violence, and specifically gender-based violence, come and report a matter at the police station. With that lot of energy and speed being emphasized by the police minister, what are your expectations as you look to listen to the State of the Nation address and President Cyril Ramaphosa's take on tackling and curbing gender-based violence?
Well, above speed, we also want a lot of accuracy. And that's where our police and our courts have actually been dropping the ball at. We welcome the speed, we need the speed, but we also need to be very accurate. And that is part of the reason why we've always been saying that our police, especially in the front lines and cases, need to be trained to be, detailed, and make sure that they have meticulous accuracy when it comes to these cases, so that when it gets to court, it does not take the prolonged time. And yes, tonight we're looking forward, and we are hoping that the president is not just going to be providing lip service, talking about the money that they've given to the gender-based violence trust to different organizations. We want to get into more detail. We want to find out what that money is going to do exactly on the ground. How are organizations that actually work on the ground going to be assisted in actually curbing the second pandemic in the country called gender-based violence? How are we going to go into far-flung areas and make sure that people, conscientized with regards to gender-based violence and femicide in the country? There's no use of actually giving money and then people are sitting in air-conditioned offices, and that money is going to waste on meeting after meeting and investigations after investigations. We need this money to be actually coming uh, onto the ground in places like, Amanskral, in Skandaf, far-flung areas where people can actually see the impact of change. We need to be able to see organizations that have been given or will be given this money actually do the work on the ground, visiting places like Stockfels, visiting places like Chisanyamas, visiting places like clubs and so on, and educating perpetrators and would-be perpetrators, specifically men, on actually how to behave in this time and of gender-based violence in our country, and really advancing the plight of young boys and young girls and women in the country, so that the next generation we can stand, to be a little bit better off. So indeed, we're looking forward to the State of the Nation address, and what we have always been saying is that it's not just about throwing money at the issue. It's about actually getting down on the ground, getting your hands dirty, making sure that we get to the places where that don't make TV and so on, and speaking to perpetrators and would-be perpetrators, and ultimately changing, negative mindsets and negative behavior. And that is the only way that we are going to get this pandemic done. We need all hands on deck, every single part of society, from churches to politicians to civil society, men and women. Everybody needs to take this seriously and get the work done.
Themba, you speak about the challenge of lengthy trials and also calling for more accuracy when it comes to investigating these cases. There's also the factor of secondary victimization, as you speak about the rollout of funds and how they can best be used to help the victims of gender-based violence. What do you think should be done when it comes to the very important matter that could be discouraging for those who really want to ensure that the wheels of justice are turning and that justice is indeed served, but really dealing with the challenge of secondary victimization?
Thank you, Paul. 100%. Especially when we speak about accuracy with regards to cases of gender-based violence, we also want to add on the layer of dignity. It starts at the front line at the police stations when somebody comes in and a lady says, "I've just been raped," and so on. We don't want to hear police saying things like, "What did you do for you to be raped? What were you wearing for you to be raped?" We want also specialized units within police stations and areas within police stations where victims can actually, in a dignified, in a private manner, go in and speak to competent, trained police officers who will be able to assist them in an accurate and a dignified way, so that victims are not afraid to be able to go out to the law. Just this morning, I got a call from a lady who says she was raped in December, and this issue is starting to eat her up and so on. And I asked her, "Did you, perhaps manage to go and open a case against the perpetrator?" She says, "No, because I'm very afraid to go to a police station because a friend of mine was also raped by a police officer, and I've got issues with the police." So just after this interview, I would actually be contacting her and going with her and to try and see whether we can get assistance for her. So, fast pace, dignity, a concerted effort in making sure that once a case number has also been given to the victim, the investigating officer needs to keep in contact with the victim or the victim's family to give them up-to-date, answers on how far the case is and what's going on with the case. Because what we're seeing a lot of the time is that a lot of cases get opened and cases don't get resolved for years. And that was, part of the reason why we opened a program calling it Case Closed, going back to cases that have been opened and investigating officers doing nothing about them. So we need to have a track record of what is being done all the time, a constant communication with victims and their families. And when it comes to court, we need competent prosecutors who are going to make sure that perpetrators and would-be perpetrators do not get off lightly on these issues.
Absolutely.
Furthermore, we need to make sure that the money that is spent is traceable, is auditable, because this is South Africa. And, as you're seeing it with all the other scandals, you just watch with this money that the president has thrown at this issue. We need to make sure that this money is audited, it's kept checked. We need to understand what exactly have they done with this money. We don't want to see conferences after conferences and Zoom conferences and people, even putting invoices for Zoom meetings because they want to eat this money for gender-based violence. It must go for the work that is intended for it to do, so that we can actually have a turnaround on this issue.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in on this matter and your input.